The Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. Book 2, The Black Cauldron. Chapter 14, The Price. Ordu, blinking sleepily and looking more disheveled than ever, stepped inside the chicken roost. Behind her followed the other two enchantresses, also in flapping night robes, their hair unbound and falling about their shoulders in a mass of snarls and tangles. They had again taken the shapes of crones, in no way resembling the maidens Tarn had spied through the window. Ordu raised a sputtering candle above her head and peered at the companions.
"Oh, the poor lambs!"
she cried.
"What have they gone and done? We tried to warn them about the nasty crouching, but the headstrong little goslings wouldn't listen. My, oh my!"
she clucked sorrowfully.
"Now they've got their little fingers caught." "And don't you think,"
said Orgok in a croaking whisper,
"we should start the fire?"
Ordu turned to her.
"Do be silent, Orgok,"
she cried.
"What a dreadful thought. It's much too early for breakfast." "Never too early,"
muttered Orgok.
"Oh, look at them,"
Ordu went on fondly.
"They're so charming when they're frightened, like birdlings without their feathers."
"You have tricked us, Ordu," Tarn cried. "You knew we'd find the cauldron, and you knew what would happen."
"Why, of course we did, my chicken,"
Ordu replied sweetly.
"We were only curious to find out what you'd do when you did find it. And now you found it, and now we know."
Tarn struggled desperately to free himself. Despite his terror, he flung back his head and glared defiantly at Ordu. "Kill us if you choose, you evil hags," he cried. "Yes, we would have stolen the cauldron and destroyed it, and so shall I try again, as long as I live." Tarn threw himself furiously against the immovable Crouchin, and once again, with all of his strength, tried vainly to wrest it from the ground.
"I love to see them get angry, don't you?"
Orwin whispered happily to Orgok.
"Do take care,"
Ordu advised Taran.
"or you'll harm yourself with all that thrashing about. We forgive you for calling us hags,"
she added indulgently.
"You're upset, poor chicken, and liable to say anything."
"You are evil creatures," Taran cried. "Do with us what you will, but sooner or later you shall be overcome. Gwydion will learn of our fate, and Dalbin."
"Yes, yes,"
shouted Gurgi.
"They will find you, oh yes, with great fightings and smitings." "Oh, my dear pullets,"
replied Ordu.
"You still don't understand, do you? Evil? Why, bless your little thumping hearts, we aren't evil."
"I should hardly call them good," muttered the bard. "Not at least from a personal point of view."
"Of course not,"
agreed Ordu.
"We're neither good nor evil. We're simply interested in things as they are. And things as they are at the moment seem to be that you're caught by the Crouchin."
"And you don't care," cried Eilonwy. "That's worse than being evil."
"Certainly we care, my dear,"
Orwin said soothingly.
"It's that we don't care in quite the same way you do. Or rather, care isn't really a feeling we can have." "Come now,"
said Ordu.
"Don't trouble your thoughts with such matters. We've been talking and talking, and we have some pleasant news for you. Bring the Crouchin outdoors. It's so stuffy and eggy in here, and we shall tell you. Go ahead," she added. "You can lift it now."
Taran cast Ordu a distrustful glance, but ventured to put his weight against the cauldron. It moved, and he discovered, too, his hands were free. With much labor, the companions managed to raise the heavy Crouchin and carry it from the chicken roost. Outside, the sun had already risen. As the companions set the cauldron on the ground and quickly drew away, the rays of dawn turned the black iron as red as blood.
"Yes, now, as I was saying,"
Ordu continued, while Tarn and his companions rubbed their aching arms and backs.
"we've talked it over, and we agree. Even Orgok agrees that you shall have the Crouchin if you truly want it."
"You'll let us take it?" cried Tarn. "After all you've done?"
"Quite so,"
replied Ordu.
The Cauldron is useless, except for making Cauldron born. Auron has spoiled it for anything else, as you might imagine. It's sad it should be so, but that's the way things are. Now, I assure you, Cauldron-born are the last creatures in the world we should want around here. We've decided the Cauldron is nothing but a bother to us, and since you're friends of Dalbin...
You're giving us the Cauldron? Tarn began in astonishment.
Delighted to oblige you, ladies, said the bard.
Gently, my ducklings,
Ordo interrupted.
Give you the Cauldron? Oh, goodness, no. We never give anything. Only what is worth earning is worth having. But we shall allow you the opportunity to buy it.
We have no treasures to bargain with, Tarn said in dismay. Alas, that we do not.
We couldn't expect you to pay as much as Auron did, replied Ordu. But we're sure you can find something to offer in exchange. No, shall we say, the north wind in a bag?
The north wind? Tarn exclaimed. Impossible! How could you ever dream?
Oh, very well, said Ordu. We shan't be difficult. The south wind, then, it's much gentler.
You make sport of us, Tarn cried angrily. The price you ask is beyond what any of us can pay. Ordu hesitated.
Possibly, you're right,
she admitted.
Well then, something a little more personal. I have it, she said, beaming at Tarn. Give us the nicest summer day you can remember. You can't say that's hard since it belongs to you. Yes, Orwin said eagerly. A lovely summer afternoon full of sunlight and sleepy scents. There's nothing so sweet, murmured Orgok, sucking a tooth, as a tender young lamb's summer afternoon.
How can I give you that? Protested Tarn. Or any other day when they're inside of me somewhere. You can't get them out. I mean,
we could try,
Orgok muttered. Ordu sighed patiently.
Very well, my goslings. We've made our suggestions and we're willing to listen to yours. But mind you, if it's to be a fair exchange, it must be something you prize as much as the Cauldron.
I prize my sword, Tarn said. It is a gift from Dalbin and the first blade that is truly mine. For the Cauldron, I would gladly part with it. He began quickly to unbuckle his belt, but Ordu waved an uninterested hand.
A sword?
She answered, shaking her head.
Goodness, no, my duck. We already have so many. Too many, in fact. And some of them famous weapons of mighty warriors.
Then, Tarn said with hesitation, I offer you Leluger. She is a noble animal. He paused, seeing Ordu's frown. Or, he added reluctantly in a low voice, there is my horse, Malenless, a colt of Malengar, Prince Gwydian's own steed. None is faster or more sure-footed. I treasure Malenless beyond all others.
Horses? Said Ordu. No, that won't do at all. Such a bother feeding them and caring for them. Besides, with Orgok, it's difficult to keep pets about.
Tarn was silent for a moment. His face paled as he thought of Adeon's brooch, and his hand went protectively to it. All that remains to me, he began slowly.
No!
Gurgi cried, thrusting his way toward the enchantresses and brandishing his wallet.
Take Gurgi's own great treasure! Take bag of crunchings and munchings! Not food, said Ordu. That won't do either. The only one of us who has the slightest interest in food is Orgok, and I'm sure your wallet holds nothing to tempt her.
Gurgi looked at Ordu in dismay.
But it is all poor Gurgi has to give.
He held out the wallet once again. The enchantress smiled and shook her head. Gurgi's hands fell to his sides, his shoulders drooped, and he turned mournfully away. You must like jewelry, Eilonwe put in quickly. She pulled the ring from her finger and offered it to Ordu. This is a lovely thing, Eilonwe said. Prince Gwydian gave it to me. Do you see the stone? It was carved by the fair folk. Ordu took the ring, held it close to her eye, and squinted.
Lovely, lovely, she said. So pretty. Almost as pretty as you, my lamb, but so much older. No, I'm afraid not. We have a number of them, too. We really don't want any more. Keep it, my chick. One day you may find some use for it, but we surely won't.
She gave back the ring to Eilonwy, who sadly replaced it on her finger. I do have something else I treasure, Eilonwy went on. She reached in the folds of her cloak and brought out the golden sphere. Here, she said, turning it in her hand so that it shone like a bright glow. It's much better than just a light, Eilonwy said. You see things differently in it, clearer somehow. It's very useful.
How sweet of you to offer it to us,
said Ordu.
But there again, it's something we don't really need.
Ladies, ladies,
cried Fflewddur.
You've overlooked a most excellent bargain.
He stepped forward and unslung his harp.
I quite understand that bags of food and all such couldn't possibly interest you, but I ask you to consider this harp. You're alone in this gloomy fen,
he went on,
and a little music should be just the thing. The harp almost plays itself,
Fflewddur continued. He put the beautifully carved instrument to his shoulder, barely touched the strings, and a long, lovely melody filled the air.
You see,
cried the bard.
Nothing to it.
Oh, it is nice,
Orwin murmured wistfully.
And think of the songs we could sing to keep ourselves company.
Ordu peered closely at the harp.
I notice a good many of the strings are badly knotted. Has the weather got into them?
No, not exactly the weather,
said the bard.
With me, they tend to break frequently, but only when I color the facts a bit. I'm sure you ladies wouldn't have that kind of trouble.
I can understand you should prize it,
Ordu said.
But if we want music, we can always send for a few birds. No, all things considered, it would be a nuisance keeping it in tune and so on. Are you certain you have nothing else?
Orwin asked hopefully.
That's all,
said the disappointed bard.
Absolutely everything, unless you want the cloaks off our backs.
Bless you, no,
said Ordu.
It wouldn't be proper, at least for you ducklings, to go without them. You'd perish with the cold, and what good would the Cauldron be to you then? I'm terribly sorry, my chicks,
Ordu went on.
It does seem, indeed, that you have nothing to interest us. Very well, we shall keep the Cauldron, and you shall be on your way.